Imagine you're an old billionaire, and you find out about a company that took $30 billion from you and put your mind into Ryan Reynolds' body. Sounds fair, right? The story starts in a lavish New York villa. Damien, a renowned real estate tycoon, stares out the window in despair. He's been diagnosed with terminal cancer, with only 6 months left. His closest friend tries to console him, reminding him that life and death are inevitable. Damien, however, isn't afraid of dying. His biggest regret is his strained relationship with his daughter. Years ago, he prioritized his career, neglecting his family, and now, facing death, he carries that burden. After his friend leaves, Damien tries to call his daughter, but the constant busy signal deepens his dejection. Just then, a mysterious card appears in his wallet. On the back, a phone number and a cryptic message. They can help you. Cautious, Damien searches the keywords online and stumbles upon a passionate talk by a deceased professor about transformation, the incredible potential for human immortality through consciousness transfer. A spark of hope ignites within Damien. He follows the instructions, arriving at a private hospital. Albright, the hospital's head, greets him. Albright explains the procedure is exorbitantly expensive, reserved only for the wealthiest individuals with genius minds. The transformation plan, the late professor's brainchild, involves transferring a client's consciousness into a new body, freeing them from aging and allowing them to continue creating greatness. Albright boasts of 21 successful cases. Damien, unconcerned with the cost, questions the ethics. Albright reassures him, claiming the new bodies are cloned from genetic material devoid of thoughts or families, thus raising no ethical concerns. Albright then confirms Damien meets all requirements. The catch: to proceed, Damien must sever all ties with his past identity, including family, citing strict hospital confidentiality rules essential for a new beginning. Returning home, Damien is conflicted. Extending his life is appealing, but abandoning his lifelong identity is a struggle. With a troubled heart, he visits his daughter, hoping for comfort. Unaware of his cancer, she speaks curtly, signaling her desire to end their strained conversation. Damien hands her a check, urging her not to reject his good intentions. Furious, his daughter expresses disgust at his constant need for control and his attempts to solve everything with money. Damien, too proud as a businessman, can't admit his failures as a father. Their painful conversation ends, leaving Damien dejected. Sadly, that's the last time his daughter ever sees him. Days later, Damien collapses at work and is rushed to the ICU. Regaining consciousness, he knows his time is short. A thought forms, perhaps fueled by the Grim Reaper's shadow or his daughter's coldness. After much deliberation, Damien calls Albright, agreeing to the conditions, but insists on paying after the procedure. Though I am a dying man, I'm no fool who can be easily tricked. Following the plan, Damien flies to New Orleans and is driven to a cafe. On the surface, it's a casual meeting, but the true purpose is for him to publicly pass out, making his death appear natural. Everything seems flawless. En route, he's informed the ambulance is fake. They'll head straight for the consciousness transfer. The ambulance arrives at Albright's private hospital. The equipment is simple, perhaps to maintain secrecy. Before surgery, Albright warns Damien. No metal could be brought into the procedure. Otherwise, it would cause the transfer to fail. Damien is pushed into a scanner-like machine. The consciousness transfer begins. In minutes, Damien's consciousness fades, then vanishes. When the machine stops, the new body beside him awakens. Before Damien can fully grasp his surroundings, the now lifeless original body is covered with a white sheet. Just like that, Damien has spent $300 million, transforming from a dying man into a young, vibrant individual. A short while later, Albright shows him a laptop displaying news of Damien's death. Seeing his official demise stirs complex emotions. He instinctively wants to see his daughter's image, but Albright quickly closes the laptop. The message is clear. Damien must bury his past and embrace his new identity. To adapt, he undergoes physical training and memorizes the new identity Albright provided. Name, birthday, birthplace, family details, schooling, employment. After some time, Damien experiences fragmented memories. Albright attributes this to a rejection reaction from the initial transfer, assuring him that consistent suppressant medication will lead to full recovery within a year. Months later, Damien has adapted to his new body and is ready to leave the hospital to begin his new life. Albright provides a week's supply of medication, promising regular deliveries until the rejection reactions cease, after which Damien will be completely free. Albright also provides a villa, a sports car, and savings sufficient, though not as luxurious as his previous life, to maintain his wealthy lifestyle. Excited, Damien explores his new home, reveling in the feeling of youth. To stay in shape, Damien exercises nearby and makes new friends. One, a friendly black guy, praises his basketball skills. After a few days, this friend invites Damien to a nightclub, introducing him to stunning women. For days, Damien follows his new friend, indulging in extravagant nights, pushing his body to the limit, as if making up for lost time and finding true happiness. Eventually, Damien tires of this lifestyle. In the quiet that follows, he picks up the news about himself again. Seeing a photo of his daughter stirs deep longing. He impulsively calls the familiar number, but realizes he doesn't know what identity to use, having forgotten his medication. Suddenly, a splitting headache hits. In his mind, he sees a mother and daughter, a pumpkin-shaped water tower, and fragmented war scenes. Regaining consciousness, Damien informs Albright. Albright dismisses it as surgery side effects, emphasizing timely medication. Damien interjects, saying the images feel incredibly familiar, as if he lived them. Albright, seeing his conviction, doesn't respond directly. Instead, he suggests Damien might need a change of scenery and recommends a trip to Hawaii, handing him a double dose of suppressants. Confused by Albright's vague explanation, Damien instinctively searches online. Using the description of the pumpkin water tower from his hallucinations, he quickly finds a real location. The next day, instead of Hawaii, Damien secretly changes his flight. He intends to verify the hallucinated scenes, a vague worry lingering. Soon, Damien arrives at the pumpkin water tower, identical to his hallucination. Only a small American-style house stands nearby. Driven by an unsettling familiarity, Damien, finding the door unlocked, unconsciously walks inside. Wandering through the house, his jaw drops when he sees a photo of himself with a mother and daughter. Examining other pictures, it becomes chillingly clear. This body belonged to a soldier. He was the husband of the woman and the father of the little girl in the photos. Damien's worries were not unfounded. This body was indeed not a clone. The recurring hallucinations were, in fact, the true memories of this body's past. Just then, a woman with a gun suddenly appears behind him. But when Damien turns, she immediately collapses in fear. Through their conversation, Damien learns her name is Laura. She was notified her husband died on the front lines and is shocked to see him alive. At that moment, Damien abandons all pretense, confirming his suspicion about the photo. Suddenly, a group of armed people burst into the house, moving swiftly. They instantly knock the still shocked Laura unconscious. When his friendly black friend enters, Damien realizes Albright has been monitoring him. The black guy's explanation reveals the chilling truth. The original owner of this body had voluntarily sold it to Albright to pay for his daughter's medical treatment. The black guy continued, explaining that Albright had sold the body to Damien. He understood Damien's feelings perfectly. It was like buying a new car only to find out later that it was a used one. He confessed that there were no genetic clones. All the bodies sold to clients were real. Albright's lie was merely to soothe their psychological pressure. Damien remained expressionless. He knew the black guy's reasoning made grim sense. He had become a guinea pig in their experiment. To prevent any leaks of this technology, the black guy would undoubtedly kill Laura to silence her and monitor Damien indefinitely. Realizing this, Damien knew he had to escape to gain his freedom. Feigning a trip to the restroom, he knocked out a guard. The black guy rushed in, but their conversation quickly escalated into a struggle when they couldn't find common ground. Perhaps it was the body's muscle memory, but Damien fought back with impressive vigor. The infuriated black guy, determined to leave no witnesses, shouted orders to kill Damien immediately, even suggesting they set the house on fire to destroy the evidence. Trapped inside, Damien remained calm. He first woke the unconscious Laura and then positioned her behind the door to fight back. The enemies surrounded the exit, clearly unwilling to let them go easily. Seeing this, Damien had a sudden idea and led Laura into the basement. The basement was both concealed and spacious. Damien held the gun steadily and quickly took down all the enemies. Afterward, Damien wanted to take Laura and escape, but a confused Laura loudly reprimanded him, questioning what was going on. With no time to explain, Damien pretended to be her husband. When they arrived at the school, Laura took Damien to pick up their daughter. While waiting, Damien looked through Laura's photo album to learn more about her. One video was particularly touching. It showed their daughter wishing to learn how to swim, an impossibility due to her illness. The father comforted her, assuring her she would get better and promising to teach her. After getting out of the car, the unsuspecting little girl ran over, excitedly believing the person in front of her was her father. This left Damien deeply conflicted about how to reveal the truth. Damien then settled the mother and daughter in a hotel, stepping out to avoid awkwardness. He knew he was in a precarious situation. The damned Albright wouldn't let things go easily. He needed to escape Albright's clutches and find more suppressants. Opening the transformation plan's documentation, Damien sought clues about the doctor. He noticed a familiar gesture from the doctor during a lecture, and beside him was someone even more familiar, Albright, who had once been the doctor's student. Shocked, Damien began to piece things together. It was possible that the doctor had transferred his consciousness to Albright before his death. Having run out of medication, Damien faced another fainting spell. The next day, after regaining consciousness, Damien had a breakthrough. He brought the mother and daughter to the doctor's house and asked Laura and the girl to wait in the car. With the help of the butler, Damien met the doctor's wife. The somewhat dazed wife struggled to speak, recalling only Albright's phone number. It was clear that Albright was essentially the deceased doctor. Moments later, Damien used the wife's confusion to lure Albright over. When Albright arrived, he appeared very calm, admitting he was the doctor and explaining his vision of changing the world. Imagine if figures like Edison and Einstein were to live for another 50 years, he mused. They would undoubtedly achieve even more. Damien, considering this nonsense, bluntly stated he just wanted more suppressants. Albright, unfazed, responded with a question. Do you know the true purpose of the suppressants? If you take the medication for a year, the original consciousness will be completely erased, and your consciousness will take over entirely. Conversely, the original consciousness will gradually return, but yours will be completely erased. Damien replied, All right, I understand, but my head is pounding, so hurry up and get me the damn medication. Reluctantly, Albright had to leave the room under pressure. However, as they hadn't gone far, the lurking bodyguards suddenly subdued Damien. Just when it seemed the situation would end there, Laura's arrival threw everyone into disarray, which triggered Damien's muscle memory. With just a few punches and kicks, he single-handedly took down all of them. At that moment, one of the goons was particularly fierce, overpowering Damien effortlessly. In a critical moment, Laura fired a shot, hitting the enemy's ear, and amidst the chaos, Damien stumbled upon a shocking revelation. This person was none other than the already deceased guard. Seeing the tide turn, the guard began to sow discord, telling Laura, Your husband is not the same as your previous husband. On the escape route, Laura grew increasingly uneasy and began to question Damien about what he was hiding and why they were constantly being pursued. With no choice, Damien pulled over and explained the truth. Upon hearing his explanation, Laura instantly broke down. The husband before her was truly not her husband. Another person, Damien, resided within his body. She felt terrible for having dragged her daughter into this situation, but now there was no turning back. To make amends, Damien told her he had a small island abroad where he could arrange for them to be extradited. allowing them to live a worry-free life. He then took Laura and her daughter to a friend's place, revealing his true identity. At first, the friend didn't believe him, but when Damien mentioned some private details, the friend finally chose to trust him. He agreed to send Laura and her daughter abroad on his private plane as compensation for the family of this body. Later, while waiting for his friend to arrange the flight, everything began to change quietly. Damien noticed the little girl looking downcast and remembered the video he had seen earlier. Without hesitation, he treated her as his own daughter and started teaching her to swim hand in hand. In that moment, he relived the role of a father, allowing his heart to soften gradually. Afterward, Laura thanked Damien for fulfilling her daughter's wish, and Damien shared stories about his own daughter. In that fleeting moment, he rekindled the longing for his own child. That night, while Damien was washing up, he noticed something strange. All the mirrors in his friend's house were covered. A bad feeling washed over him, prompting him to rush out and search for the little girl. He eventually found her in his friend's son's room with no explanation in sight. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Damien quickly gathered Laura and her daughter, insisting they needed to leave. He then discovered that his friend's son had died 2 years ago, which meant that the boy they had seen was likely another participant in the transformation plan. Confronting Damien, his friend revealed, "You can't escape. Albright's men were already at the villa's entrance." Enraged, Damien shouted back, revealing the truth about the transformation plan. His friend's eyes widened in shock upon learning that the children were not clones, but real humans with thoughts and feelings. This truth was difficult for him to accept, but after some reflection, he decided to help Damien. They quickly devised a plan. Damien's friend would take Laura and her daughter out through the back door, while Damien would draw Albright's attention away through the front. They agreed to meet at a restaurant a few minutes later. As Damien stepped out the front door, he was indeed intercepted by Albright's men. During the ensuing chase, the thugs soon realized there was only one person in the car, leading them to split up and pursue him on 2 fronts. At that moment, Damien felt empowered, almost as if a warrior's spirit had taken over him. He fought fiercely, using his skills to take down each attacker one by one, driven by the determination to protect the mother and daughter he had come to care for. After the smoke cleared, the little black guy was resurrected again and was once again killed by Damien. It's unclear how long it had been, but Damien arrived at the agreed-upon restaurant, only to find that he did not see his mother and daughter friends. He apologized, feeling helpless that he really couldn't stop Albright's goons. Changing the subject, his friend gave Damien some extra medication that belonged to his son. He explained that he had fled abroad to escape Albright and had someone study the drug's formula. Damien asked if he was the one who slipped the previous card, to which his friend confirmed and admitted he didn't want to see his old friend die like that. The next day, Damien went alone to Albright's private hospital and secretly sneaked in, hoping to rescue the mother and daughter. The situation inside was more complicated than he had imagined, and the patrolling security was numerous. By chance, he stumbled into the core operating room and just happened to see the little black guy about to undergo surgery, with Albright standing right behind him. They believed that Damien had broken the rules of the game. As punishment, he decided not only to sell the bodies of the mother and daughter to others, but also to immediately transfer the consciousness of the Guard One into Damien's body, erasing both the original body and Damien's consciousness in the process. Struggling desperately, the clever Damien had secretly hidden a bullet. When he was forcibly sent into the machine, Albright did not notice anything unusual. As the 2 machines roared to life, the consciousness transfer was completed in an instant. Because Damien had the metal on him, this operation was destined to fail. Albright approached and asked for his name, while Damien pretended to explode with the Guard One, as if the Guard One had successfully transferred for the nth time, and no one suspected anything. A few minutes later, back in the office, Damien learned the whereabouts of the mother and daughter and ordered his subordinate to take him there. When Damien arrived, he did not hesitate and directly shot the 2 accompanying security guards. By the time Albright, who was checking the machine, realized the bullet's presence, it was too late. Damien arrived and declared that he was going to kill Albright. He wanted to personally eliminate this crazy demon. Albright tried to threaten him with suppressants, but Damien recited the formula word for word. In Albright's terrified gaze, he ultimately turned into a fireball, dying in the operating room. Seeing that their boss was dead, the other security guards dropped their weapons and chose to flee. Afterward, Damien gave the mother and daughter a large sum of money and sent them to a small island he had bought. This was intended to compensate Laura. After all, he had taken her husband's body. Once Damien had ensured the victim's family returned home, he sought out his own daughter and conveyed a letter in the guise of a friend of her father. The letter contained Damien's heartfelt words, expressing the guilt he had felt toward his family over the decades. After this experience, Damien finally lowered his head and admitted his mistakes. He knew that even if he gained immortality, he could never reclaim the lost time with his daughter. Seeing his daughter smile for the first time, a look of comfort on her face, Damien made a quiet decision in his heart. A few months later, Damien woke up in an unfamiliar room, but he was no longer Damien. He had become Laura's original husband. Through a video left by Damien, this man understood what had happened. It turned out that Damien had stopped taking the suppressants to return the body to its original owner, enduring countless torments and pains in the process. As time passed, the man's consciousness gradually began to return until Damien's consciousness was completely erased. At this point, one might not understand why Damien, after fighting so hard for his life, would willingly give it up for another. In fact, Damien must have cherished the time he spent in that body, but he couldn't bear to see Laura's daughter lose her father. Given Damien's character, a regrettable ending could only happen once. How could he let it happen again? In the end of the story, the man found Laura and her daughter at the given address and successfully fulfilled Damien's last wish. The movie ends here.